Welcome to the full King of the Fort handbook covering all the aspects of the tournament, how I have it set up so that it runs smoothly and efficiently. Before every match day, the search party and a single docker run a fleet takeover, try different servers until they find a good one, and attempt to have a server where only members of the search party are on every ship on the server, allowing a lot of freedom to invite all the competitors we need to run the matches. The search party members are on the server, sailing around looking for other player ships to recruit and to commandeer their ship. They use methods including pulling up all cannons, using megaphone, turning on all lights, not having any weapons out, and treating the other ship crew respectfully in attempt to communicate and accomplish commandeering the ships. Ideally, a search party consists of 12 players from the same or similar time zones, with only one docker that uses a specific spreadsheet to keep track of players, which ships they're on, and moving around the search party staff in order to accommodate ship transfers. Here is a template of a starting point for the docker. The docker then uses the copy pastes to fill out the type of ships, the player game tags, and then put in more names into the swap in column whenever players need to be substituted or moved around. These are the three ship types names. This is the highlight for crews that are already in the alliance. This is a marking for spots on the ships that are empty and available. This is a marking for spots that we don't know if are available or not, and we don't know what the gamer tag of the player is on that ship. Usually used on ships that are not part of the alliance yet, but we are working on figuring out how to get them in. This highlight is used for ships we are aware of that are on the server but that are not in Alliance, players that are on the server but that are not search party staff. This is used to mark players that are part of the search party staff, and this highlight is used for players that are competing in the matches. This highlight is only used at nearing the end once the fleet has already been set up and players part of the competing crews are getting ready to be swapped in to the ships they will be sailing on for the matches. This column is filled out based on who is competing in that match on the particular day and which players will be playing, to be used as reference when swapping in the competitors. So here's the search party guide. The goal is to commandeer ships alliance fleet of closed crew ships with only search party members and competitors. Start on a closed galleon on NA East servers or join off of someone that is in that region so that you are all on NA East servers, because that is the servers we use for the competition. It is the server where the average ping from players across the world is the lowest overall. It's the best average server for everyone. Step 2 is to look for Reaper markers, active forts, and nearby ships. After 20 minutes of sailing no luck, try a new server. Sometimes you won't see ships close by immediately, so it's good to sail around, especially because there are server hopping implemented nerfs to make it harder to hop servers. So it's important to at least set sail if you're going to skip the server in order to have better chances of finding other active ones and not ending up on the same one over and over again, but just at different islands. Reaper markers always are always ships. Active forts often are a good location to find players that are with microphones and more willing and able to communicate, and nearby ships are always a chance to start growing an alliance. Step 3 is find a ship and pursue it. Point all cannons vertically, change to offer alliance flag. If any hostility is shown, shoot to sink and deserve. If players are being hostile and it's impossible to communicate them, it is often a waste of time to attempt to keep them there. If we find a crew that is vengeful or not interested in teaming up and wants to sink us, it is often a sign that having a full fleet takeover will be too difficult, and it is more worth to look for a new server. If the sink is easy and quick, and we get a sense that they will not be coming back or that they've actually left the game, then it may be okay to stay and hope that a new ship will replace that ship and allow for a new opportunity to gain another ship in the fleet. Don't allow the ship to endlessly run, meaning don't pursue if they are mobile and turn to avoid you if they're out of reach. It's not good to chase and pursue a ship that is on high alert, because if you start chasing them, they will tenfold get more alert and your chances will drastically decrease in getting close enough to them to even have a chance to reach out or even find game tags of the players on that ship. So it's best to avoid them and then come find another moment to get back to them if they try to run. Friendly up, alliance up, persuade not to leave the server. So in that order, you want to get friendly with the players, letting them know that you're not hostile, that you're not an enemy. Alliancing up will allow you to track their ship, so if they can manage that, then there's a higher chance that they will be able to manage adding a search party member and then swapping players around. And when they're allianced up, they will probably be more willing to give up the ship once they are ready to move to a new server. Persuade not to leave the server. It's really important that if you do make this contact that they don't leave the server until somebody from the search party joins them. Getting that through it can be difficult, but not impossible. As soon as we have the gamer tags of the players, it's really important to post them so that it's easier to contact the player in case of broken Xbox console app or some other issues. D is get a search party member on their crew and a deal to get the crew to start new ship. It's not only important for us to get a player on their ship, but also that they leave and restart a ship. And once that happens, and there's only search party staff on the new ship that we're receiving, the crew can be set to closed and then the ship is completely secured. It's also important that we have lots of search party members in order to make sure that if there are any disconnections that they don't cost us any ships. The reconnection feature still works, but if you go AFK for too long or internet disconnects, it's usually not going to let you back in. I think the feature only works if the game server screwed up, not if you decided to leave the game too quickly or by exiting out. So it's important to at least have 2 members for that reason on every ship, and the maximum amount of ships is 6, so that's why the 12 search party members minimum is a requirement that we shoot for. Repeat step 2 until 5 ships are acquired, so keep looking for more ships. Don't leave the server, obviously, if there's already 2 or 3 ships allianced up. Repeat step 2 till 6 actually ships are acquired, and that is a full server takeover, making us basically effectively having a private server, just without the ability to customize the ships and with the risk of losing ships if everyone from a ship leave. The extra thing is that it's important we do a regular fort and hold on to the key so that we have an extra key for the staff crew ship to be used during the tournament. We have an extra key because sometimes keys get lost during the tournament and it's too difficult and too long of a hassle to look for the key or figure that thing out, and pausing the tournament is always bad. So having an extra key like that is something that needs to be done before the competitors are invited and is part of our regular setup. During tourney, if someone gets disqualified, they are allowed to join the search party and fish in the corner of the map for a payout after the event. In the unfortunate case that a crew gets disqualified, they could be invited to the search party in order to have something to do while the event continues and having some kind of reimbursement in hopes that they can enjoy the rest of the event in a casual way, get the money and the spoils of other crews turning loot in during the tournament, and also an opportunity to relax with the search party, extra ships, fishing, while observing the tournament from afar. It's very upsetting when a crew gets disqualified, and it can be emotional and frustrating. So we have this set up to take the edge off the tension that occurs in these kind of situations and hope that the crew will keep their honor and not interfere with the event and attempt to make things worse. Docker guide. The goal of the Docker is to track which ships and what type are in the current fleet, currently held by search party, which members are in which ship. They dictate players around, especially when swapping players to new ships, and they make sure that other ships don't have their last member leave, therefore causing a despawn and a loss of a ship. So the Docker is really important to keep track of things so that no progress is lost, because this is a very difficult and long process of setting up a server like this. So it's extremely important that certain things go the way we want so that we don't lose any progress we've made. On to the staff crew guide. This is a combined guide for 4 different members of the staff crew. The members of the staff crew are on the galleon on the server, and they help run everything and keep track of everything that we need in order to keep score for players and crews and to provide the level of stream quality that we want. So the 4 types are modder, waver, mapper, and doubler. The modder sails the staff crew galleon during the tournament and responds to referees and players in the Discord. And first to respond to address issues that come up during the event. So the modder is mostly sailing the staff ship and keeping a tab on the Discord and keeping most of their attention on keeping the ship alive and away from random adventure events, so that the ship doesn't sink, keeping a close eye onto Discord so that if anything happens in Discord, they are the first to respond to it and to jump on it to get people that need to be involved in the issue or whatever needs to be taken care of. They're basically the mod of the Discord and also the helmsman of the ship. The mapper listens in on casters and watches real-time tourney stream and streams the map view from the galley accordingly. Basically listens to casters and tries to help the stream quality by moving the map around to give information and to help make the stream easy to keep up with and to keep track of all the ships that are competing in the match. It's like having a mini map, but we don't just have a mini map that keeps track of everything and names which ship is which. So we have the mapper basically use crafty ways throughout the tournament to keep track of everything so the casters know what is going on and therefore can use the information they have to better cast, and so that the audience watching the stream can better understand what is going on the macro scale. Moving on to the waver. The waver camps on the active fort and calls out wave changes to the modder, also providing close-up camera shot. They're basically our main way of knowing when the waves change, allowing us to know when to check the map and when to see who is going to be gaining points during the fourth stage of the tournament. They're also on the island, so they're able to provide a camera view of the on-fort, on-island action. So when there is some heated action going on there or something exciting on the island, the waver would allow us to see that more closely and in a more exciting way. The doubler doubles up on whatever staff crew role needs a second hand and fluidly helps out where needed. So they're basically the 4th extra member that when any of the 3 other staff crew members need an extra hand, or if they die, or if the ship needs more extra help, doubler is basically there to make sure that whatever role needs attention the most is being supported. Now all of these roles are not set in stone, and they move around depending on what part of the tournament we're at and what happens in the tournament. There are contingency plans around different ways that things could go that the staff have written in their guide so that no matter what happens, we are ready to act upon it to keep the tournament going without having to interfere or meddle with pauses and awkward and hectic moments. So, moving on to the staff crew guide. These are the shorthands that we're using for the 4 type of staff crew members. Note that it's important to use the staff crew dress code, which is all Athena clothes. All Athena clothes are banned for competitors and reserved for the staff crew so that the staff crew are easy to spawn day and night in the game. There's also the extra fort key that we put in the staff crew ship Crow's Nest in order to keep it out of reach from competitors that may try to cheat and also to make it easy to find. It's important that the modder regularly checks on the key in order to make sure that it doesn't despawn or disappear, and if it does disappear, they will immediately ping extra key gone to the tourney staff text channel. So basically there is tourney staff and tourney docs text channels under KotF that are exclusive to the staff and the referees. The docs is mainly for the referees to type and the staff to view, and the staff text channel is for the staff to type and the referees to view. So whenever there are any cues that are required to be posted, sometimes in the guide it will mention which text channel to post it in, but if it's requiring a referee to post it, it'll be posted in docs. If it's asking a staff to post it, it'll be posted in the staff. And if I'm posting it, it will probably be in the staff or both. So these text channels are the main communication hub for the staff during the matches. So the extra gaunt would be posted in the tourney staff so that everyone is aware that we have to change how we're going to behave during the key stage of the tournament in order to accommodate the fact that we don't have an extra key. This guide will be a mixed guide of these 4 roles so that it's easy to see how the 4 roles interact with each other. There is a guide separating these 4 roles so that there isn't information that is really irrelevant to one member or another, and simplifying it so that the staff can more easily keep track of what they're doing, and a handbook to the guide that really minimalizes how much text you're looking at while running the event to remind the staff of what needs to be done and in what order and when to make keeping track of things more easy, because this wall of text is not something you want to be looking at during the flow of the event. So these markers are divided into the stages of the tournament, just as the rulebook is divided in the same way. All the staff crew members during the KOTF staff crew Discord voice channel or a private group call created by me. We do a private call if screen sharing is required to track the different camera setups. There is ways to set it up so that we have lightning speed stream from Mixer from the staff and allowing for very little delay, if not no delay. But being in a call makes certain that things won't go wrong. So the preference is to have the call, but other methods are fine as well. And then they join the staff ship by communicating with the docker. Then all the staff mute crewmates in game because sometimes the staff will need to communicate with the players in game in case of a pause or some situation. Sometimes the staff will need to communicate in game. Since all the staff are in the same call on Discord, you will hear each other doubled if you don't mute in game, so that's why we mute in game. Waver and Doubler stay high ground and watch players, hanging out to make sure no one is breaking pre-tourney rules. Usually the outpost that we will be using, it's not easy to keep track of every single player, so 2 people should be enough to be able to hear across the entire outpost if spread out onto 2 different sides, and it'll be easier to make sure that people are not fishing and stashing fish early on or fighting when they shouldn't be. The mapper stays with me and protects me in game. This to dissuade competitors from using weapons and knowing that I am watching them and I have somebody next to me ready to kill them or threaten them if they try and attempt to do something stupid and reckless, which really shouldn't happen, but it makes it more official and it keeps, I think, the players more focused and listening to what the staff are telling you to do and keeps me feeling more comfortable around everybody else. The modder is not in game currently because I'm the 4th member, so the modder just watches the Discord attentively and keeps in touch with the referees that should be joining the calls and setting up with the different crews themselves during all of this. The referees are covered in another section of the guide separately from the staff crew guide, which I'll get to later. So no gunfire, cannon shots, kegs, fishing. This one's harder to notice, but it's because it's not audible, but the other ones are much easier to hear for the Waver and Doubler. And the standard rules and regulations following is everything in that section of the rulebook. No abusing others or name calling in the open world. So it's important to make sure that everyone is staying honorable and that the banter is not hurtful, but just playful and fun for everyone. If any player breaks a rule, posted in the tourney staff, don't try to tell people, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, I'm going to kill you if you're going to do that. That's not right behavior of a staff. You report it so that we know who it is, and then you approach them afterwards so that we have record of everything that happens before players attempt to nullify things that happen. And it just keeps things much more organized and less he said, she said kind of deal. And then we have the yellow-red card system. Basically, one offense gives player a yellow card. If player with a yellow card breaks a rule again, they receive a red card and must step off to allow a sub or alternate to take their place to play. Basically, if you have a red card, you're not allowed to play anymore in the tournament. If a team has 2 red cards or 3 yellow cards at any time, this includes benched players. So if somebody's been swapped, but they're still part of the team roster and they have a yellow card, that card will still be counted towards the total. the team is disqualified from the tournament. Staff will not award you a yellow card the moment they see you do anything wrong. They will tell you that you're doing something wrong and make sure that you understand where the line can't be crossed. They will mention the rule and they will try to allow you to realign yourself. We're not here to ban people, we're here to have a fun and exciting event. But if we do have to punish players that are interfering with that, we will. After qualifiers going into semifinals, any players with yellow cards are cleared of the yellow card. So if you had an offense after qualifiers, which is 3 matches and quite a bit of time, so if you have a yellow card, we clear that going into semifinals and finals. We want people to be able to freely focus on the competition without having to constantly worry about the parameters of the event. So this also gives guilt-free freedom to referees and the staff to warn players with a yellow card without feeling that they are putting a lot of pressure on that team, cause that team to not be able to focus on competing anymore in fear of getting disqualified. I felt that this was a pretty good way to do this, a pretty good balance. Moving on to interviews. This has to do mainly with the referees because I will be pinning the referees in their tourney docs text channel, telling them when the particular crew is up for interview, and then we have the interview, and then the referee will tell that crew to move into the tavern to prepare for the beginning of the match. During the interview with the final crew that is going to be entering the tavern, Doubler stays with me for protection. Waver heads onto the roof of the tavern for a good view of the First Blood stage and giving us a nice camera angle, and starts screen sharing in the call if they haven't already. And the mapper heads to the staff crew ship and gets set up on the map and starts screen sharing as well, so that we have everything ready to go as soon as the final interview ends. The modder is still not in game because I'm still in game. Moving on to the First Blood stage, Doubler stands at the doorway looking in and holding the door till I say 2 from the countdown. I'll be counting now from 3 all the way to fire. 3, 2, 1, fire. And I fire my gun in order to symbolize the beginning. On 2, the doubler should run to the staff crew ship and start setting sail to the active fort. If there's no active fort around, better to sail to some small island and start stocking up the ship if it isn't really stocked. This is in order to get a head start on all the competing ships that will be scuttled and then spawning, because it's very nice if the staff ship can get to the active fort first, giving them ample time to set up park and set up to track waves and all that kind of stuff, making things much less stressful. Waver stays on the roof, not emoting, so that the POV view is on, so that we have the clearest view of what's going on without seeing the waver themselves on the screen. And they show the action, and whatever I'm casting from there, I'll be casting the initial First Blood stage. So whenever I reference certain players that I see from the waver's point of view in this shared screen, I will try to guide the casting through the fight. So my shot kicking off the tourney is also the kickoff for the tourney timer that starts at 0 time. The timer is important because this kind of event, fighting over a fort, can last for very, very long periods of time. We have things set up for staff a certain way so that we can accelerate moving from one stage to the next when the timer hits a certain point, and we can default to certain things in order to accelerate the speed at which the tournament will near its end, allowing matches to not last any longer than approximately 2 hours, with the fort stage taking about an hour or so, and then the loot stage taking about 45 minutes, and everything in between taking another 15 or so minutes, so about 2 hours being a good maximum for the whole thing. As soon as the final crew is left alive on the island, we can confirm this with the mapper, because they will see when a ship has been respawned, and if a certain ship hasn't been respawned yet because no one's grabbed the mermaid, that would be a way for us to know if the crew is alive or not, and we can always ask the referees to confirm whether a crew is alive or not on the outpost island, so that we can award the first point in the First Blood stage to the right crew without messing it up. The point is awarded to the crew that is left alive last in the First Blood stage, giving incentive for crews to try to get at each other and not take the mermaid, therefore making it much more clean and easy to tell when we're moving on to the fourth stage, and rewarding crews for fighting over just spreading out and hiding on the island, messing up the flow of that stage. So moving on to fourth stage. I leave the crew because I'm no longer needed for the initial parts, which were the interviews and the firing the starting shot. This way, I'm making room for the modder to join. The mapper continues watching the map and keeping track of which ship is which by crew name, so this is very important. And the referees will be posting where crews spawned so that if we have multiple of a ship type, we can know which ship is which on the map, and the mapper is granted the responsibility of making sure not to lose track of which ship is which, because they should be in constant ability to watch the map and use notes or something to keep an eye on the action, because the casters will be focused a lot on talking and keeping the cast entertaining, so the information from the mapper will be really important to have around that. And it would be our only way to really knowing which ship is which, and the referees being able to find out as well. The stream can help us know, but it's really helpful to have the mapper have a definite answer for the casters. So sometimes I will mention, or my co-caster will mention, a crew on stream. The mapper will try to move the map around based on the conversation of the casters to keep the mini-map view in the stream relevant to the conversation. Every time a ship sinks during the rest of the tourney, track where it respawns and pin their new location in tourney staff. So if you're the mapper, you should be able to tell when a ship sinks and catch that moment, because the action and the casting will probably be around that. And when a ship sinks, is very important to the outcome of the tournament. So the mapper will need to look around the map and look for when that ship respawns and where it respawns, and then post that in the text channel so that the casters get that information. And if the mapper can't figure that out because multiple ships sunk at the same time, maybe two sloops sunk, and then they both respawned nearly at the same time, and the mapper didn't have time to check those spots without kind of ruining the map view on the stream while the casters are explaining something else. In case of something like that, the referees will be keeping an eye looking for the mapper to post the new island of where the ship respawned. The referees don't see that, they will know that the mapper requires this information from them, and without needing to converse, the referee will ask the crew that is respawning where they respawned and deliver that information to the mapper so that the mapper can continue keeping live track of the ship positioning in the adventure world. Once the mapper gets that info, they post it as well so that they confirm that they have that info now from the referee. So this is the mapper side. When the fort stage begins, the waiver stops screen sharing because that is no longer needed, and they take the merm to the staff cruise ship. As soon as the active fort is found or appears, mapper, waiver, and doubler head there and park. Anchor down, then all sails down. This way the ship is as easily noticeable and distinguished from all the other ships. Even though it will be the only galleon on the server, it's just nice to have the triple mast down so that it's very obvious that the ship is not hiding and is not a competitor. It's important to park far enough from the fort so that the fort won't fire on the ship. This is relevant to every stage except for finals, because the finals doesn't have cannons or skellies on towers, but also close enough so that the waiver can shoot over and doesn't have to swim too long. The waiver is susceptible, of course, to dying because they are tucked on the island waiting for the sound of new waves coming, but it's too close for the staff ship to be parked in order to hear when the wave changes, so they have to be without getting into cannon range. So the staff ship will stay away from the cannon range of the forts and allow the waiver to shoot over and track the wave changes themselves in that way. So it's important to be just on the verge of being too close and close enough to islands or small areas to dissuade megalodons from constantly spawning or skelly ships from spawning onto the staff cruise ship, because that would of course make it difficult as and in that case the doubler will often help the modder unanchor, move the ship, and all kinds of things of that nature. If it's an unsafe location, of course the staff cruise ship can be unanchored and with all sails raised in order to be able to move very quickly to avoid these kind of hiccups. Once the staff cruise ship is set up, then the waiver shoots over to the fort and tucks in the spot, out of view and not a common hiding spot, to avoid players as much as possible. So as a waiver, you don't tuck somewhere where it's common to tuck, or a tuck spot that is very good for tucking, so that you don't run into the chance of some competitor trying to hide in the spot that a staff is using. So the waiver should be trying to hide somewhere that is uncommon for tucking, so that competitors don't run into the waiver as much as possible, but also tucking somewhere not in too much in view so that not to be distracting to the competitors. Even with Athena closed, it can be pretty distracting to see somebody sitting on an island, especially when the action is very high paced. Then the waiver pings number count of the wave. Every time the music plays, that means a new wave has spawned. So that's when the waiver will post this ping into the tourney staff text channel. The mapper then immediately will double check the crew positions and post which crew gets the points for the wave. It's very crucial for the mapper to watch the Discord text channel in order to catch when the wave happens so that they can accurately give score to the crews that deserve it. Then the modder posts a fresh post listing of the crews with updated scores in the following format, with the crew A being replaced, of course, by the crew's name with a dash and then the number of points that they currently have. You repeat this process every time a new wave is pinned by the waiver, of course, and with a new post by the modder, no editing previous posts of the score update. So posting a new score every single time. So after posting 101, only crew B and C receive scores next time. The modder would post crew A has 1 point, crew B has 1 point, crew C has 2 points. And they would post that full set again. The more info we have on record in the text channels, the more easy it is to track down any mistakes that may occur. The modder will be on a lookout for megs and scaly ships coming after the staff crew ship, of course. If this happens, modder and doubler, as I was saying earlier, either move the ship towards an island or rock to despawn the threat, or load up and attempt to sink the threat as quickly and efficiently as possible. Scaly ships are pretty annoying, especially for the galleon, so stocking up early with a lot of curse cannonballs and methods to sink it quickly is really nice. Two-man galleon is a difficult task against a scaly ship at times, if unlucky with positioning or just unlucky. Sometimes the AI can be quite difficult to deal with. In some cases, the mapper may be able to assist in the most crucial of events, that the staff ship is in danger of completely sinking, respawn somewhere far away. In that case, of course, the mapper may join in on this as well, because it's very important that the staff cruise ship does not sink as much as possible. If it can't be avoided, it happens, it's okay, because the waiver will still be able to deliver information, but of course it's much better if staff cruise ship doesn't sink. So back to the waiver. The waiver does waves if no one visibly or audibly is doing waves, killing skellies, and there hasn't been a wave completed or skelly killed in the past 5 minutes. So the waiver should always be ready to start a timer on their phone or something, because if 5 minutes have passed and no skellies are being killed, that means the fort is not really being done, and the waiver can assist with this by doing the fort. Of course, carefully and avoiding keggers and trying to stay alive is very, very important, and much more important than actually killing the extra skellies. Dying is much worse for the waiver than being unable to complete waves. But just like it's saying here, try your best to stay out of player line of sight, or at the very least keep the greatest distance you can from them during this. Staying alive is the most important while on the island as the waiver. As soon as you see a player killing skellies, head back to the tuck spot. So if you see somebody finally being on the island, just head back to the tuck spot. It's not that important. But once an hour hits of tourney time, of course, it's quite a while, then the waiver should start doing waves regardless of whether players are doing them or not, and the doubler will join the waiver in order to assist getting the fort as quickly as possible to wrapping up by getting waves done faster in order to get to the final captain wave, allowing the tournament to progress. Because oftentimes competitors will be fighting each other over control of the fort, and if the competition is very close, there isn't really time or room for either crew to commit a member to fighting skellies in PvE versus trying to sink the other ships or kill other players. So in that case, that's why we have the waiver and the doubler assist in moving the waves along in case that the PvP gets very non-stop and endless. Once captain spawns, ping wave captain and instantly take Merm back to the staff crew ship. Doubler as well if was on the fort island with the waiver. Once final captain spawns, not the other captains, but the real final wave that will drop the key, the waiver will ping wave captain and instantly Merm back. Instead of typing in the number of the wave, they will put in captain to replace the number. And Merm back to get out of the way of the PvP, because this is a very important and sensitive moment when the competitors will be trying to gain possession of the key in order to score points for the key and have priority over what happens with the loot once the vault is open. And the doubler moves with the waiver back to the ship if the doubler left to the fort island with the waiver. This moves us to the key stage once the fort cloud disappears, and basically when that happens, the waiver pings key spawn because the key has spawned from the captain dying. The waiver watches the tourney docs chat for the referees posting who unlocks the vault. The referees will be in charge of making sure to track that down. As soon as that happens, the tourney key stage ends and we move on to the tourney outpost stage or the loot stage. If overtime is pinned by me, then the waiver and doubler take the extra key from the safe crew ship and swim it to the fort. Overtime basically means that the 3-minute timer that is given to players to put the key into the vault and unlock it has run out, and therefore the point rewarded for opening the vault is no longer available, and the key is no longer allowed to be interacted with by competitors. This is the overtime stage when the staff take charge of opening the vault of the fort, so the waiver and doubler will swim over with the key and open the vault themselves, with the waiver immediately running away to back to the staff cruise ship as fast as possible to get out of the way of the PvP that's about to happen and burst, and then post staff unlock vault in the staff text channel, while the doubler jumps over the door as it opens and goes inside to sit emote in the very back. The doubler then is in charge of finding out how much loot and what type of loot there is in the vault so that we can better track what loot is being turned in and have more information about how close we are to ending. Now, if this extra fort key is lost for whatever reason, extra key gone, if that's pinned, that means we have to go into this version of moving to the tourney outpost stage. So overtime no extra means that we don't have the extra key. So that would be pinned by me if I know that there is no extra key. We'd launch the tourney docs, the referee text channel for got key or key location and information on where the key ended up being when the overtime hit. So the waiver and doubler join the Discord call of the crew that is in possession or knowledge of where the key is. So the waiver and doubler find out information about the location of the key. They shoot over to the fort and head to the location. They run towards the vault door and open it, with the similar thing happening with waiver running away and taking merm and the doubler staying to count the loot. Because the loot is RNG'd, we don't know how much loot or what type of loot will be in there every time, so it's nice to have that information so that the scoring is more fair and to dissuade cheating the scoring. As soon as the waiver merms, they post staff unlock vault, just like previously in the previous version. So this takes us to the tourney outpost stage. More than halfway there. The doubler sit emotes in the very corner of the vault, but sit where you are immediately visible from outside of the vault so that not to jump scare anyone. It's possible that people will try to hide in the vault in order to kill players that come in that are unsuspecting, so it's important for the staff to sit in a way that is obvious and very apparent. With having the Athena clothes on, it would make it more difficult for competitors to mistake the staff for somebody trying to jump them, making it easier for the doubler to stay alive and more comfortable for players to focus on the competition without being distracted by the staff. So the doubler, once set up, counts up all the non-stronghold loot because we know what kind of stronghold loot we get from regular forts, but the RNG aspect comes in with the other loot that isn't stronghold. Once the doubler has this information, they post it in the tourney staff, how many and what types are inside. The doubler can also screenshot this in order to make sure that there is some kind of information, even if the doubler is going to die to some keg exploding in the vault, which is a common occurrence that can happen. So it's important for the doubler to be as quick as possible with this and to take screenshots first before dying in case of this, so that we can find out as much information about the loot inside the vault as possible. Only move around the vault when safe from interfering with any fighting or action. After accounting for all the loot, stay inside till all loot leaves the vault. So the doubler is going to be basically the view inside the vault so that we know when loot is being moved out of there, so that we know when certain loot is in play and when certain loot is still sitting back at the vault. This will help the casters be able to talk better about what is going on, how many points are sitting on which ship, and what the best strategies might be for the different crews, and allow the casters to touch on the mind games of the competition more clearly. Waiver, meanwhile, shoots over as well and finds a spot to watch as much island action as possible without being in the typical talk spot just like before, and without being too close or where it would interfere with the competition. So it's very likely that during this early half of the tourney outpost stage that there will be a lot of fighting on the land and at the fort. Capturing that would be really exciting for the stream, so we have the waiver do that. The mapper, meanwhile, keeps track of the ship locations
and moves the map as usual with the casting discussion. Also ping whenever a ship breaks the loot zone area and is spotted leaving that zone, and then posting when the said ship returns to the loot zone. This is so that we can track the points against crews that sail with loot on board outside of the loot zone, which is considered running, and we have rules set up in this sense so that there isn't endless chasing and hopping and selling at outposts. There's only one location to sell it, and if you have loot, you are required to brute your way through the other competitors in order to sell it, making the tournament as PvP heavy and intense as possible, and trying to remove all the annoying and unfun aspects of chasing PvEers around adventure mode. If the ship sinks and respawns somewhere they don't have loot on board, that's easy to tell. It's a little trickier to tell if the ship has or doesn't have loot, but if they haven't sunk, that usually can be figured out based on which ships are chasing which ships, or based on what players pick up the loot from the cave, which can be tracked by the doubler that's sitting inside the fort vault. Half of knowing whether a ship has loot on board would be, of course, trusting the fact that the competitors will know. The other half is asking the referees to clarify if there are loot items on a certain ship, and the honor system, of course, playing into that a little bit. But most of the time, it will be easy to tell and be able to score whether crews are punished for having left the loot zone with that loot on board. After Doubler and Waver shoot off, the modder moves the ship farther from the island and the action to the far corner of the loot zone on the opposite side from the direct line from fort to Tony Outpost. So to show you, basically, if we look at, for example, Keel Hall Fort and Sanctuary Outpost, the circle is the fort zone, the rectangle is the loot zone. As soon as the competition begins, most likely during the fort stage, the staff crew ship will be near the Spoils of Plenty store in order to avoid spawning megalodons and skelly ships, sitting out here and having the Waver shoot over. Once the fort zone is over and we move on to the loot zone, the ship would move to the opposite side from the line between the fort and the Tony Outpost. This way being as far out of the way of the direct and quickest path between the fort and the Tony Outpost where the turn-in is designated. Sail to the boundary line of the loot zone as much as you can while close enough for Doubler to record the action from the crow's nest for the duration of the Tony Outpost. So basically, once the ships start traveling more towards the Tony Outpost and the action moves away from the fort and more towards the turn-in locations and fighting over who gets to actually turn in the loot rather than who gets to keep the loot on their ship or load the loot, the staff crew ships should start sailing along the edge of the loot zone where they are not inside the action, but they are close enough to be able to see the other ships and what's going on in the action. So they would sail along this edge out here and then come around to around here somewhere in order to allow for best camera shots of the action. The modder also keeps a timer at the ready and watches the mapper ping the loot zone break and safe pins. The modder times the time between the two pins for each crew and then posts these times in order to calculate the penalties for leaving the loot zone with loot on board. As the action gets away from the fort and to the Tony Outpost, Modder moves the ship closer and closer towards the Tony Outpost. As soon as most of the loot has left the vault, 3 or less trinkets, the doubler murmurs back and screen shares from staff crew ship's crow's nest to show the ship's PvP action. This would allow for a really nice view of what's going on at the end of the tournament when the points really start to count and decide which crew gets to win the round. And if all loot is gone from the vault, that's when the Waver also murmurs back. So the Waver can check regularly if there's loot left in the vault, but they're the designated person for the fort, and until all the loot from the fort vault is gone, technically the competition is still going and there is still loot to be turned in play for points. Doubler drops down and helps with ship whenever necessary to stay afloat and fight PvE threats. So in case that the modder needs help from the doubler can quit sharing the camera view from up top and assist in order to not let these staff crew ships sink. The Waver can do the same also once they're back. So after that, we hit the finish line. So once all fort loot is turned in, or all that we are aware of, the tournament round is over, if there has been turned in as many or more items than the number we are aware of, then if no crew says they still have loot on them, and this is heard from every referee, the tourney is concluded. The referees are pretty involved in figuring out and making sure that there is no duping, basically finding random loot trinket spawns on small islands, picking them up and saying that they're from the fort. That kind of stuff the referee will be keeping a close eye on to make sure that there is no cheating of the sort. There is no perfect way of making sure that mistakes don't happen around this because every fort is randomized and there is chances that we won't track everything perfectly. But this I found is the best and closest way we can keep track of this, and more on this kind of stuff in the referee section of the guide. If, however, after 45 minutes of the 20 outpost stage, this conclusion doesn't happen, we default to the final battle. For the final battle, the modder steers the staff crew ship to the ship furthest from the 20 outpost. Once they arrive at the ship, they pick up their loot. So the final battle, I will basically say pause for the referees so that the referees tell all the players to stop sailing, basically pausing the competition. The referees will tell the crews what to do, but we're here focusing on the staff crew. The staff crew ship basically visits all the ships competing to get their loot and collect all the fort loot onto the staff crew ship in order to set up for the final battle, starting from the farthest ship from the 20 outpost. Once arriving at the ship, pick up all their loot. If they're aware of any loot they stashed, the doubler can go with the ship to where it is and then place it on the bowsprit of the ship and then take that ship to the 20 outpost while the staff crew ship sails to the next ship and the next ship. Repeat this process with every ship until all loot left is on the staff crew ship. No perfect way of making sure this goes super smoothly, just as mentioned before, but this is a sure way to avoid as much chaos as possible. Next, all the staff park the staff crew ship at the 20 outpost. Everyone should be on that ship at that time and carry all the fort loot inside the tavern, place it on top of the tables in the most easy to find way possible, and then spread out a bit so easy to count and see. So the waiver sit emotes next to the mysterious stranger in the back and starts to screen share so that we have the view of the loot that is being fought over at the tavern for the stream. The modder pings the loot set once all loot has been placed and all staff is out of the tavern so that we're nearly ready to go. We wait for the captains of each crew then to come to the docks near the staff crew ship, which the referees tell the captains to do that themselves once they see that the loot has been set. And then we're moving on to this. Where the staff go out to greet them, using in-game chat, the modders set up the last stand locations for each crew captain. Starting with the crew currently with the least points, meaning the weakest link or the underdog coming into the final battle, they get to choose first which part or which edge of the outpost they get to start at, and they show them the starting locations that they get to choose from as well. Least to most current score, crew captains will determine their last stand. Basically, the location is called the last stand, and it's where they have their last stand in the round, of course. That's where the name comes from. The modder post last stand set once all of the captains have set up their last stand locations, and the modder leaves so that I can join for the ending of the competition. Then the staff check for referees ping that the final battle is ready, that every competitor is in the right spot and set up ready to go for the final battle. The referees will make sure that everyone is ready, that everyone has landed in the spot that they should be, that no one's cheating, no one's running around or whatever. That everyone's ready to go, that everyone's coordinated. We get that ping from all competing crews before continuing. The mapper used mass dropping during the last stand setting up to die and go to the Ferry of the Damned. The mapper now doesn't need to be watching the map because everything's going to be happening at the outpost on land. So the mapper then stays by the door and they don't show anything in their hands so that they don't accidentally show the wrong signs, because the mapper will be guarding the ferry door and waiting for the final battle to conclude. Because during the final battle, no one is allowed to leave the Ferry of the Damned, so the mapper will be there making sure that nobody does, and tracking if anybody does, and making note of it that they should be receiving a warning or something, or that they are not alive or whatever, because everyone gets only one life during the final battle. Then the doubler gets a cannon shot ready for the staff cruise ship cannon for the final battle kickoff. So I head over to the docks and use my megaphone, "Are you ready for the final battle?" And just to, mostly for the stream, not so much for the players to know, more for the stream to get hyped that it's about to begin. And then I emote, signaling for the doubler to fire the cannon, probably the Admiral Point. As soon as my Admiral Point arm extends, the doubler synchronizes the cannon shot, and the final battle begins, being recorded by the waiver inside the tavern and then recorded by me from the outdoors. Tourney end will be pinned by me when it goes up. the mapper can pull out the lantern and flash it rapidly for everyone to see so that everyone on the ferry knows that the event is over and that it is now safe and allowed to go through the ferry door in order to respawn. So then the post-tourney happens. That's when the tournament ends. Refer to the pre-tourney setup to make sure that everything is organized. I will be doing interviews again for post-interviews with the crews. Once all of the crews leave, everyone's off the clock from the staff cruise ship. I will basically be spending a good amount of time making sure that all the score is correct and confirming all of that, then announcing the positions and the points from that round and things of that nature. That's basically the entire guide for the staff crew that is on site during the tournament. It's 4 players that all have very important roles that require each other, that check each other to make sure that everything runs very smoothly, so that there's no hiccups and so that everything works well. Now we can move on to the referees who are not in game. They are in the calls and they're just basically nudging the competitors and the crews and coordinating everything between them and the staff crew and me. The goal of the referee is to coordinate and keep the crew assigned to you on track with tourney phases. Keep the integrity and honorability of the players and event by reporting any rule breaking or abuse and being on a sharp lookout for stream sniping and hacking. That as well is very important. Referees will be watching the streams of the TPOVs on every crew specifically and watching the mainstream as well, but mostly paying attention to the TPOV and the comms in order to determine if there's any stream sniping going on and being on the lookout for all this kind of stuff. General stuff about referees: they use the KotF tourney docs text channel to communicate and use cues. Everything highlighted in purple is a cue that the referees must listen to or use or respond based on how the guide mentions. This way the staff crew and I can better coordinate between us and the crews. So cues are marked with highlighted code, word, example, scuttle. Whenever one is posted, tell the crew to do the following described in this guide. The staff crew modder will be the first responder if any issue come up that need resolving, such as stream sniping, hacking, and things of that nature, or other nature. Keep yourself usually muted in the Discord voice channel and or the Xbox party. Only unmute when something very necessary comes up, such as giving the crew directives, giving warnings to players, managing a player swap in, and answering rulebook questions. So the referees should not be really talking so that they don't distract and break the flow of the crew, but they should speak when necessary in order to do their job. If sitting in both Discord and Xbox party of the crew, communicate mostly to the member that is in Discord because everything really resolves around there. A lot of the cues come from there. It's better to focus on Discord. If you say something in this Discord call and you seem to be ignored for a pretty long duration of time, try saying again through the Xbox party and let the guy that's in both calls know that they must be able to hear Discord voice channel during the event. It's required that at least one member is in the Discord call, and if they are, they have to be able to hear the Discord call while hearing and communicating in the Xbox party. This is very important because so much weight is put onto Discord connecting and coordinating everything that the Xbox party is allowed to be used for crews to communicate, but it can't be the sole way that the referee communicates. This is more from experience that this rule is set up, but it is Xbox solely players not being able to react to referees or staff when needed. And communication issues being a thing. There's already a rule for crews that sign up in the signups that the team captain, who is the first starter of the crew, must have access and be able to use Discord. That's already a rule, so therefore they should be able to use both the Discord and the Xbox party at the same time and communicate with the referee. So then this should not be an issue if the crew has signed up and confirmed this. If it happens again, you can yellow card the main guy in the Discord call. It is very important to us that we have communication going on, and communication with the referee is integral to the successful, smooth running of the tournament. Almost there, guys, almost there. Okay, pre-tourney, interview, and first blood stage are all kind of one thing. Check what crew you are assigned to and join their call. Learn your crew's names and players' names so that you can easily reference to them and talk to them and spot them on the TPOV stream. Contact the crew's TPOV that will be playing, get him to start the stream so that I can test that that's working and so that the official stream for the tournament works correctly and successfully. Ping that the stream is live and ready for check. I will then ping back confirming that the TPOV is good or saying it's not good and how and why and what's wrong with it. If it's not working, then it's the referee's responsibility to communicate with with the TPOV and to troubleshoot with them and try again till I confirm that it is working. TPOVs are required and they're a very exciting part of the stream that we provide on the tournament, so this step needs to be done. Interview and then putting in the name of the crew. If the name of the crew is the crew that you are assigned to as the referee, then you go on and do the following, which is tell the crew to empty pockets onto the ship, meaning put everything from your inventory into the ship inventory, and then head over to the front of the tavern for an interview with me. You tell the crew that they can use open world mic if they want to talk, and then after the interview is over, tell them to head inside the tavern. The scuttle pin means you need to tell the crew to vote to scuttle their ship and to pick a table or corner to start in and sit sleep emote in the area chosen together. So the crew needs to sit together so that it's more fair and more exciting to see the crews clash, because if all the players are separated, and it's very easy for the players to die in the first blood stage. So if the crews are sitting together when the first blood stage begins, it's going to be more exciting and more successful of a fight in the bar. Crews empty their pockets onto the ship so that they don't have anything on them, and then they scuttle after that so that there is a true fresh start to the competition. Because there's no fighting and things like that on the outpost, they shouldn't have any missing HP, so that shouldn't be a complaint. And if they are fighting the Athena hideout, so they would have to come up first. They would have to go to their ship to put away their things so they can get their HP to maximum there. So after that, we can basically jump straight to the fourth stage, because the referees don't really need to be doing anything specific during the first blood stage. The first blood stage just happens after the shot happens, and the referees just pay attention normally to the normal things of like stream sniping and hacking and all that kind of stuff. It's really important for referees also to watch for double gunning, because double gunning is banned in this tournament. The referees will be responsible for watching out for that based on sound cues, based on visuals, and issuing warning yellow cards when that occurs. So fourth stage. First, post what island your crew that you're assigned to spawned at. Crews are required to let you know as soon as possible after respawning merming after the first blood stage what island they're at. As soon as you have that information, it's important to deliver it for the mapper to know which ship is which. Focus on everything in the general section. Stay awake and alert. It's important to pay attention throughout the tournament. Pay attention to comms. Comms can be very revealing of what the players are doing and what they're thinking, what they're aware of, what they're not aware of. The stream of the crew's TPOV, definitely pay attention to that, and the KotF stream. For the KotF stream, keep it only visual so that it doesn't interfere with hearing the crew's comms and hearing the TPOV's sounds. This is why the referees are so useful, because they are not watching the main stream and they're not running all these different things that the co-caster and myself are doing, allowing us to have ability to focus on casting while the referees focus on making sure that there is no cheating. Do not jump the gun on suspicious events, but always mention anything fishy, as repeated fishiness patterns recorded in the Discord text channel will help justify correct and most fair action. So sometimes as a referee, you might hear something, you might think there's somebody double gunning on the ship or on the stream, but you don't know who it is. There could be somebody yelling out some curse words or something, but you weren't able to identify who it was. And sometimes something fishy might happen. That's somebody that there's no way that a crew would know that somebody's coming to keg them from underwater and is swimming maybe from another island to try to screw with the ship, or that there's somebody tucking and that they kind of ran to that area and they found out that the person was tucking there based on the stream. So it's important for the referee to keep track of these things, and that if something happens that is suspicious, to also record those things in the text channel designated for the referees, the attorney docs. Even if it's not certain and it doesn't prove cheating, it's important to take note when there is something suspicious, because suspicious over and over and over usually does mean that somebody's cheating. They're just kind of good at making it look authentic and look like it's not cheating. And having repeated posts of suspicion from a referee, with referees being vetted and trusted veterans of the game, the referee will be the final say of whether something is considered cheating or not. Having the record is very helpful to me as well, and to have more people be able to look at it to really judge what's going to be the outcome of a certain issue. Every time the cruise ship sinks, figure out where they respawn. Staff crew mapper will post in 20 staff text channel every time a ship respawns with its location, but if they don't, post it in the 20 donks and pin staff crew mapper there. So whoever is the current staff crew mapper, pin them if the staff crew mapper doesn't know where the ship has respawned, that is from the crew that you are assigned to. Now moving on to the key stage. This stage starts as soon as the fort captain dies and drops the fort key. Listen to the comms for your crew mentioning having the fort key and for mentioning of when they are opening the fort vault door. They are required to notify about these two events in the comms with you so that we can track and award points correctly to the crew that does use the key on the vault. Post in Tourney Docs the crew name and that they have the key when a crew mentions having it, and insert the crew's name and unlock vault if they mention opening the vault door. Crews gain 1 point for being the ones to open the fort door, so this is quite important to track. Use posts from the other referees to discern if there's any fishing line or mistakes. God key can overlap as players might kill each other over it, but unlock vault should be unmistakable because only one player or crew can unlock the vault, so it's important that only one crew posts that. Look out for overtime ping from me. This will be pinned if no one has opened the vault before the 3-minute timer ran out. Immediately tell your crew that the key stage is in overtime. They're not allowed to touch the key during overtime, so it's important to let them know when that happens so that they can respond with not touching the key anymore. If the extra key is lost, and then I will be posting overtime no extra. This will be pinned if no one has opened the vault in 3 minutes after the timer ran out and we don't have an extra key. Immediately tell your crew that the key stage is in overtime. Find out, and that if a player on your crew is holding the key, they must drop it immediately wherever they are without it falling in an impossible to reach location. Find out if they have the key or know where it is. If they do, ping that they got key or that the key might be at a certain location. Get this information out in the Tourney Docs text channel. If they don't, then ping no. The waiver and docker from the staff crew will join your Discord call if you have the most information or are assigned to the crew that has the key. Then you will be involved in helping the waiver and doubler find the key more easily. Look out for unlock vault or staff unlock vault. This signifies the start of the Tourney outpost stage. So the Tourney outpost stage, everything as usual, but pay extra attention to your crew's TPOV stream. Every time they earn gold for something turned in by the fleet, but the crew never mentions or preps the turn in, pin in the text channel question mark, insert the loot item name, and then the gold amount that was earned by your crew that you're assigned to. This is done by all the referees so that we have the information. So listen to the comms for players mentioning turning in loot and make sure that whatever they say matches what happens when it's turned in. Check their TPOV's stream to double check that things line up. Post in the Tourney Docs crew name, loot item, and gold earned. There should be only one post with a crew name and an item turned in and its gold amount, and then a bunch of posts of question mark and the item name matching up with the first post, and the gold amount being half and identical for all the other crews. So after that, the Tourney outpost stage will just keep going as loot is being turned in. Then we hit the finish line once all fort loot is turned in, or all that we are aware of. The tournament round is over if there has been turned in as many items or more that we're aware of, and if no crew says they still have loot on them, and this is heard from every referee, the tourney is concluded. If, however, after 45 minutes this doesn't happen, we default to the final battle. Just like earlier mentioned, referees will be asked to double check that there is no more loot left as we go on, and if the 45-minute timer does hit after this, it is not really the case, we go to final battle. IQ pause, so it's important to pay attention to that because that's when, as a referee, you have to mention in the call that the tourney is now in pause. During pause, there is no use of any weapons, including guns, cutlasses, cannonballs of all types, kegs, throwables, or anything else I might have forgotten. Basically, no weapons. Anchor your ship right now and move all loot you have on the ship to the bowsprit, so making things very easy to do for the staff crew. Tell the crew to mention any loot that they are aware of and that hasn't sunk, that they've stashed somewhere, or that is not on the ship, and where it is. Once the crew is visited by the staff crew ship and it has all the loot on board, tell the crew to park just max cannon range away from the Tourney outpost and anchor with the ship sideways, ready to shoot over the players to the island. This is the setup needed for the final battle to occur. For the loot set pin in the Tourney staff text channel, when that happens, tell the captain to shoot over to the Tourney outpost and head to the docks next to the staff crew ship to talk to the staff. Last stance set will be posted in the Tourney staff text channel. When that happens, tell the crew to grab all their supplies they want from their ship and to shoot over to the Tourney outpost and to head to the last stance spot and sit them out. Once everyone is sitting and everyone is settled, post your crew that you're assigned to's name and final battle ready next to it, signifying that the crew is prepared for the cannon shot, signifying the beginning of the final battle. The final battle will start when the staff crew ship fires a cannon shot at the Tourney outpost. Tourney end is pinned by me, signifying that the tourney round is over. Post tourney, during this, just chill in the Discord calls, let know the crew when there's an post interview that I request the crew for. Stick around in the crew's call until everyone has left. Be the last person there in the call. Once everyone has, you're off the clock as a referee. That's basically all of it. Moving on to me. This is mostly a guide for me and what I need to do so that I don't forget what things I have to take care of as the tournament goes on. So note, I only use the KotF folder during the event to avoid confusion and panic. So there's a lot of text channels in the Discord that I use for tracking different information and taking notes on renditions of the tournament. And there's a lot of archive text channels that are no longer relevant and have been renewed or removed. When the tournament is happening, I just need to minimize all of the folders except for the KotF folder and just stick to that so that it's easy for me to focus. We'll jump here straight to the pre-tourney. I set up the stream and make sure everything is running correctly. Streamlabs on the left, Discord on the right layer in a way where I can max watching the screen sharing from the staff so that I can have the best quality of that, have that siphoned to the Streamlabs correctly. Post crews, players and referees list, show names of crews, gamer tags of players competing, including subs, and gamer tags of referees assigned to those and each crew, and pin it. So having that is really nice because then everyone knows who to expect where and when, and it makes it easy to kind of keep track of who is doing what for me and for everyone. Join staff designated crew ship, so I actually go into game at the beginning. I change cosmetics of the ship to the set that is standard for the staff ship, which is just red lights because now it's easier to get red lights, so it's just red lights. Then I take a group pic with and of the search party team, so that can be put into the VOD to thank the search party for their relentless help with the setting up the server and allowing the tournament to happen on that day. Then I get Docker's help to move in the competitors onto the ships and then let go the search partiers from ships being used once they are filled. Once almost all the spots on the ship are filled and the last part is occupied by the search party member, they can be swapped out and the last member of the crew can join in. If we have extra ships, which happens in the qualifiers and the semis, because we don't utilize every single ship in the competition, the search party takes the extra ships to a corner island somewhere parked together for passive fishing and chilling, so to not be confused by competitors and staff crew mapper during the competition. So if there's a bunch of little ships grouped at a random small island fishing, sitting there the entire tournament, it's very unlikely that competitors will confuse them for somebody competing. So that would be the best way to make sure that we don't have any new ships appear on the server. So we still have 6 ships on the server and holding it down, and then we run the competition smoothly with no randoms showing up. Telling the search party to fish gives them something to do so that they're not bored out of their minds, and so that they don't get AFK timed on accident, which would be terrible. Check TOPOVs that referees say are ready, then pin confirming that they're working fine. This is the thing with referee that we do to make sure that all the TPOVs are set. Say no if it doesn't work, and then keep checking. Start stream live with timer countdown. Introduce the audience to the tournament and the season and the event that's happening on that day, and hype up the tourney for a few minutes and warm up the start. Then we head into interviews. So once the tournament has been introduced and everyone knows what's going on the day, everyone's excited, we can start talking to the competitors through interviews. I set up outside the tavern door, and then I send referees the crew interview order so that the referees know when to expect to be next in the interview list. I pin referees in the docs for every time I ask a new crew to come up. The questions I'm going to shoot for asking mostly are how you came up with a crew name, how you're feeling about the tourney that day, how you feel about the competition that you're up against, and anything that the players and the crew want to say to the stream to hype themselves up, to maybe have some friendly banner against other nemesises or other crews that there's heated competition against. Show crews inside the tavern and proceed with the next crew until all crews have been interviewed. Then go on to the first blood stage. With Sniper, I stand in next to the mysterious stranger. I ping referees that we're starting soon. And then I call everyone's attention in game through an open world microphone, do the countdown of 3, 2, 1, go, and I fire on go to initiate the start of the first blood stage. I watch the action, and I be the last one to leave the tavern once everyone is out, or at least once most people are out. And the action is outside. I try to keep up with the action without getting in the way and being able to stay alive. And I continue casting as I watch the action as I'm in game until the last person is gone from the island. Color cast what just happened a little and then transition into the next stage. So maybe cover a little bit of how this went, what this might mean for the spirit of different crews and how they feel about going into the competition. Maybe somebody's spirit might be crushed, or maybe somebody got unlucky, maybe some funny moments happened. So I kind of go over all of that a little bit and then head straight into the fourth stage. In the fourth stage, switch scene to the map view, tell everyone where the ships are at the very beginning so that we can have an idea of where everyone is. Default to HQ scene for stream, which shows all the TPOVs at the same time. Exit game so that I can let the modder come into the game. And exit normally so that I don't lock the modder out of joining. Cast the match and pay attention to the 20 staff for score updates and respawn location info so that it's easy to keep casting without guesswork. If I need info that is delayed and not posted, I can request by saying add here, insert whatever I need information on, whether it be respawns or players dying, different things sometimes might be relevant to the casting flow, so I might do that sometimes. So it's important to have a look at on that, of course, and the modder will always be the first to see those things and keep an eye on that. And the modder will also ping me if there's some issue that I might need to get involved in if it's something very serious. Then we move on to the key stage, during which I watch for the key spawn ping. As soon as that happens, I start the 3-minute timer clock on the stream so that we can see that going on as the competition keeps unfolding. As soon as the timer is out, I ping that it's overtime, but if it's already been pinged unlock vault or staff unlock vault, then it's not relevant. Then I don't have to ping overtime. Overtime no extra, I ping if somebody from staff already posted extra key gone. So if the key is gone, and then I have to mention that the key is gone so that the referees and the staff crew are on the same page when I post overtime, no extra, and then they'll know what to do. Tourney outpost stage, I keep casting. I use info posted in the tourney staff to gather info, including number of loot items in the fort. Staff won't count the stronghold items, which there are 4 of, and regular kicks don't count. And this is referring to everything except for finals. Finals are their own thing, with a few changes because most of the loot is predictable and it's a little easier to track these things. This version of the guide is more tailored towards the qualifiers and the semis. Alert turned in and by who is also information I will be gathering. Penalty times from crews leaving the loot zone bounds. I update the crew total score chart on the Discord notepad, whatever, based on the loot zone bounds penalties. I can update that as well. The total score chart, I have my own post of it aside from the modder posting so that I can have another layer of checking to make sure that everything is right. Every 30 seconds cumulative outside the loot zone bounds is -1 point. I think rulebook says 20. Yeah, it's 20. Finish line, once all fort loot is turned in, or all that we are aware of the 20 round is over, it's the same kind of thing as previously mentioned. The finish line is basically the same for everyone. Final battle, I'll pin pause if the 45-minute timer runs out, and we default to final battle pin pause so that the referees know what to do, and so that the staff crew can take care of getting all of the setup done so that we can run the final battle. The modder will post in tourney staff last stand set and leave to give me the spot to join. And then I can use the megaphone to get the stream excited for the final battle. And then I'll use the admiral point or normal point, whichever. And then the doubler will fire the cannon shot so that everyone knows when to start fighting in the final battle. Cast the fight, but stay out of the way. Once only one team is standing or all loot is sold, congratulate the crew that is left, and then rush to count up the final scores. So it's very important to then quickly double check all of the scoring to go through the entire timeline of how we arrived at the final scoring, and then vet it and confirm it. I pin Tony and as I congratulate the crew that's left alive and I count up the score and then I announce the winner and placements for the tourney round and post it. Post tourney, I do interviews with all the different crews and have some banter between the competitors, talk about the event and different highlights during it to different players, whichever are willing to talk and interested in the post tourney aspect of it. That's basically it for me. There's some extra stuff, which is the Fort Loot and Loot Zone link is here, as well as in the KotF Welcome text channel, of course. The disclaimers here, there's disclaimers in there as well, that we can't control the connectivity of players to the servers because we don't own them or have any influence on them. So we just work with what we've got. Important, this is kind of, I have to give credit to the Sea of Champions. I really like the rule setup that they have. The standard rules and regulations are the rules I've written myself. These are just added just to really make sure I haven't missed anything in case somebody's trying to create some kind of loophole and get away with it. It is in the signups that I can change and adjust the rulebook and the contract if necessary to keep the integrity of the tournament. So if somebody attempts to do some stupid loopholing for malicious reasons, there are ways to patch that up. So then this is the staff dress code. This is how it would look in day for on me, and this is a picture of me doing it on night. Very easy to spot the staff. No one else is allowed to wear Athena clothes, so it should be pretty easy to spot them and unmistakably know that it's them. Eye patch is required, pegs are not required. Some people don't like to wear pegs, and I'm one of those people, so I'm not going to make all the staff wear those. Sailor title, so that it's very, very obvious. No one wears the sailor title. I've been playing this game forever. Basically nobody does. They only do it for a very specific, personal reason. They like being a sailor. They have something very iconic with that they feel about. So very few people I know that do that. So it will be the most unique setup possible so that there's as little confusion on who is staff and who's actually competing as possible. So it's easy to spot the staff in the dark as well. That also helps a lot with that. Then this is like the basic setup of the staff cruise ship. It's going to have the overachiever sails, the hull of ocean crawler, the figurehead of the Athena figurehead, the ashen cannons and ashen wheel, and the ashen capstan. So everything's pretty lit up and red and as a red warning sign as possible. With the red lights, it's just pretty unmistakable, and the overachiever sails show like a tournament symbol. That's kind of like easy to notice that this ship is not competing, it's monitoring. And that's basically almost everything. The other thing we have is the competitor guide. So this is actually what we give once the crew has signed up to have a better idea of how to go through the tournament as smoothly as possible without hitting any roadblocks or bumping into breaking rules. So generally be honorable and respectful of all players and staff, follow your designated referee's cues and directives, use Discord or the Xbox party call for communication with teams at all times, don't use anything else. You have to use that because that's what referees are going to be paying attention to, so it's important. Text chat in game and pirate chat wheel phrases are not permitted. Typed out messages and or rolls on deck laughing from the pirate chat wheel are not allowed during the matches or on the even server that we are running. The reason for this is because those can be very triggering or annoying, and it's asking for trouble to not have this banned. And we do have pre-tournament and post-tournament interviews when you're allowed to talk and you're allowed to have banter. It's just that when the competition is happening, we want the competition to be purely whatever is going on. It's very frustrating when you get killed by a blunderbuss while trying to board a ship. So somebody spamming rolls on deck laughing or calling you something and trying to avoid calling you names to not break rules is a very gray area that is only asking for trouble. So that's why we have this rule set up this way, to just nullify the entire problem before it even shows its head. No shooting at, killing, bribing, or talking back at staff. Staff are really important, and we are all on the same team of trying to make the tournament run as best as we can, so don't do those things. No boarding, very important. Do not board the staff cruise ship. Getting on, damaging, or sinking the staff cruise ship. Trophy-shaped sails, mostly orange-red. Look with red lights. We're not doing purple because red lights are much easier now to achieve. It is a common courtesy in event of any accidents of the previously mentioned to hand food to staff to recover lost health and or shoot over to the staff cruise ship and bring planks to hand to staff. But remember, no boarding. So if you accidentally hit a cannon shot onto the staff cruise ship and you are at leisure enough to spend time going over there to provide us with some planks to make up for the damages or to provide food to a staff that you might have shot by accident on reflex during competition. If you have time to do that without it costing you the ability to compete, it's a very nice move and it gains respect in the community and it keeps us knowing and proves to us that you are indeed honorable, and we really appreciate that always. Athena clothes vanity set is banned because staff are using it to be easily distinguished and recognized, so keep that in mind. If you're having connection issues, consider leaving and reconnecting using the settings option of leaving so as to allow a sub to join if necessary so that they're not locked out. Communicate any issues you are having to the referees. They are your guide through the competition, so feel free at any time to confirm rulebook details with the referee if necessary. You're welcome to talk to them. They will answer questions, but they will try to talk as little as possible so that they can allow you to have clear comms with your teammates so you can focus on competing rather than having pleasant conversations with a referee. Pre-tourney, check tourney chat under pin pinned messages for a list of the referees to find your crew assigned one. Join the KotF docs voice channel, which is the top channel in there, and wait to be moved by the referee to your crew channel. So you can't join your crew's designated voice channel so that people don't jump around calls trying to name call and be annoying and do banter. For that reason, we have the calls locked, and the referees are the ones that just move you in. If you get disconnected from your call, just rejoin the KotF doc, let your teammates know, or the referee will see that you've done it and they'll just move you themselves most likely, because they're always keeping tabs on the Discord server, using it to communicate, so they'll see if something happens like this. If you're having Discord connection issues, just keep joining the docs whenever you're able to reconnect, and you'll be moved. And if you're having issues with Discord, you can always try the Xbox Party. If using Xbox Party, wait for a referee to invite you to their Xbox Party. So they'll make a private Xbox Party that friends can't join, so that is a clean party that you can use freely for the event. Once in, referee will guide you through joining the server, and then no guns, cannons, use kegs, or fishing allowed until they kick off during the first blood stage. Warm-ups and skirmishing fights to be kept in the Athena hideout only. Sorry about this not being updated. This is actually already how it is in the rulebook. Yes. So skirmishing and warm-ups to be done in the Athena hideout only. No sinking ships and no fishing. Interviews, referees will let you know when your interview is up, answer questions about you and your crew, and then head inside the tavern in preparation for the tourney kickoff. You're not required to talk during the interview, but it's nice if at least somebody is, because that's the whole goal of the interview, is to get the audience and the people watching the stream excited about you. First blood stage, once I shoot the kickoff shot through the tavern door, you may move from your spot and begin fighting. Try to be the last one alive, and you get a point for the first blood stage to get you going. Fourth stage, once ship respawned and you've either taken the ferry or mermed, one person immediately head to the ship and state in comms what island you've spawned at so that referee can take note of it. Every time you sink, if referee asks for your location, find out and mention in comms where you respawned. You just look at the map and it'll just tell you, so just do that. That's the quickest way. Then remember, points during this stage are rewarded only if your ship is in the fort zone during a wave change. You can be camping the fort all you like, but if your ship is not in the fort zone during a wave change, you won't receive points. Having players tucking or doing waves on the island while ship is not in the fort zone when the wave changes will not reward your crew with a point for that wave. Key stage. This stage starts as soon as the captain is killed and the key final captain is killed and the key spawns. If a player from your crew has the key, you must mention this in the comms for your referee. Also announce in comms when you and as you open the fort vault door for referee. You earn 1 point for being the crew that opens the vault door. If your referee calls overtime, drop the key where it is. If you are holding it in a spot where it can be retrieved easily, and tell the referee where it is. Competitors are not allowed to interact with the fort key once overtime hits. Just ignore it after that. Staff might try to get it, then they might ask you for some info, but other than that, just don't bother with the key anymore. Focus on killing the other pirates so that you have the first priority over the fort vault and the loot inside. TO stage. Once the vault opens, be wary as a staff member will be trying to get inside the vault to count up all the loot inside for a total number. Let the referee know when you turn in fort loot as you're doing it and the name of the item you're turning in. This is important so that we can track and reward points to each crew correctly. You must mention how much the item sells for as well if there is stream issue with the POV. If there isn't, then the TPOV will let the referee know how much you earned from that as a crew, so you won't even have to worry about that. Finish line. Once all fort loot is turned in, the tournament round is over. If, however, after 45 minutes of the TO stage this doesn't happen, we default to the final battle. Final battle. This part of the tourney happens after the pause that the referee will guide you through. No use of weapons during the pause. After the pause, the final battle will start. So there's a bunch of stuff that will happen during the pause that need to be done to set up for the final battle, but you just do whatever the referee says or the staff say. All the remaining fort loot will be sitting on the tables inside the tavern. There's only one rule: no leaving the ferry of the damned if you end up on it until the staff standing by the way out of the ferry flashes their lantern rapidly and runs through. So basically until the tourney ends, you're not allowed to respawn. You only get 1 life during the final battle. Once the kickoff, you live once, and if you die, you're dead permanently. Basically battle royale section of the tournament in a little sense. Post tourney, same rules as the pre-tourney. I will be at the tavern entrance again, doing interviews and asking about the round that just happened. Stay honorable in victory and defeat. That's all we ask. That's basically it. There's the team sign-up rules. At least one member of the crew playing must be in the Discord call assigned to the crew and must be able to hear and keep up with the referee throughout the event. No double gunning allowed or gun reload animation canceling. This is a big one that might dissuade some people, so make sure that you're aware of this rule. The use and practice of double gunning is mentioned here, including but not limited to use of exploit, macros, or anything resembling swapping weapons, both ranged and melee, shooting/swinging, and or reloading faster than the original standard vanilla speed is banned and not permitted. Using two guns in your loadout, apart from the aforementioned ways, is permitted. So you can use two guns like you would normally use, but anything that would change and improve your ability to swap the weapons quicker, reload quicker, any of those things that are considered double gunning under that umbrella are not allowed. If you're caught doing it by a referee, you will be warned and receiving yellow and red cards, depending on if you persist to not listen. Respect and caution around the staff on the Discord server and in-game on the Sea of Thieves server is crucial to the success of the tourney and required by all competitors. Hiding loot for extended period of time, installing, turning in, and purposefully dropping loot to sink, aka griefing, bad sportsmanship, and trolling, can result in live disqualification and ban from future participation. You will receive warnings for this kind of action, so just play the game as it is and follow the rules, and everything should be fine. This is basically the end of the King of the Fort handbook, the full guide of all of the staff involved in making this tournament happen. I worked pretty hard to make this possible. This video is mostly so that maybe some of you who are aware of how difficult it is to run events can see, so that you're reassured if the event that I claim to be able to run might not be possible to make happen. Well, here's the proof. It's pretty long and it's pretty big proof, but it is proof that it would be quite possible to make this happen. So hopefully this reassures many of you that this competition is legitimate, is real, and I am serious about making it a full-fledged season. If you have questions or suggestions, feel free to post in the comments. I might have not touched upon all the nuances of why certain rules or details are set a certain way, but I tried to cover as much of the important aspects of this guide as much as possible. Thanks so much for watching this very long video, and hope to see you sign up or watching the events.